You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for January 7th, 2022. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where this week we are 120 years old in podcast years. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal.
Yeah, that's another anniversary. You know, the more important anniversaries, Driftglass, as one right-wing outlet tried to say.
Right. Yes. Well,
but this is not more important, but we do want to say thank you to our listeners. We are 12 years old this week.
We are.
Our podcast is an old lady. Class, I'm not going to take responsibility for killing Betty White.
No.
I think People Magazine killed Betty White.
No, I'm sure they did. I'm positive they did, as they have so many before her and will kill again.
Yeah.
People Magazine, notorious serial celebrity killer. So, not us. Don't blame us.
But sure are going to miss Betty White. And
yes,
happy 12-year anniversary to us.
Yes.
Buzzsprout, our podcast host, has helpfully let us know that in the last year of 2021, we did 54 episodes, which is pretty consistent.
Well, no, that's not right. That can't be right because there's 52 weeks in a year.
Yeah, but there aren't 52. There aren't 52. I think we did two science fiction universities.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
And we had 61 hours of content in 54 episodes.
Oh my gosh! Actually, probably 3 science fiction universities. When I think of it, yeah, yep. That sounds right.
Anyway, keep supporting us. We'll keep doing the show, and we so appreciate you. And keep listening. We're here. This show, this special 12th anniversary show, brought to you by our latest new sponsor, False Flag. False Flag. Got some heinous shit you did last year? Blame it on False Flag. See how far that gets you.
Yeah. It's been a day. This is we're recording this on January 6th, the day of the anniversary, the first anniversary of the Republican violent attempt to overthrow the U.S. government at the behest of the Republican president, and with the support of the vast majority of Republican politicians, elected representatives, and of course the base. Thank God Joe Biden politicized it is all I can say. Because now it's both an Antifa false flag and, oh my God, honor our imprisoned heroes on the right. They languish. Yeah. They languish in, what's it called? In durance vile. They languish in durance vile. Political prisoners all. And because that's just how we commie lefties are. We just lock up our political enemies. We you might recall the many rallies Joe Biden had where lock him up was the chant.
Oh yeah, lock them all up.
Yeah,
we all did that. Yeah,
wasn't that Hillary Clinton's motto during
lock them all up?
Lock them all up, throw away the key, burn them all down, salt the land where they live. No, I believe that was her campaign platform. No, okay, maybe I just misremembered that because I'm doing that all the time these days. Apparently, I misremember a whole lot of shit that. By the way,
I said on Twitter today there was one reporter, Kirsten Welker.
Yeah.
Who's very much the Beltway both-siderist, transcription agent for Trump for years. But she apparently at the White House press conference today wanted to ask why Joe Biden wasn't bridging the divide.
Yeah, I want to know that too.
And so I said, I'm going to get in trouble for this. But on Twitter, I said, I really wish I could fly to Washington. And I didn't say poop. But I'll say poop now. Poop on her keyboard and take a selfie of me doing that and then blame Antifa,
Right. As one does.
Blame the FBI false flag. Blame them for the thing that I did a selfie on Facebook for. And then the next morning, I'll take the family photo of Kirsten Welker that I stole from her desk back to her and ask her, why aren't you bridging the divide between us?
What's wrong with you? Why wouldn't that mean Mr. Lincoln bridge the divide after he blew up Fort Sumter? Maybe if he'd worked a little harder at not being partisan, wouldn't have had no Civil War.
But, his enemies will use that against
They will. That reminds me, this 12th anniversary show is also sponsored by Antifa. Antifa. If false flag doesn't keep those pesky felony charges away, try Antifa until it works. Yeah. Fuck them all. Fuck them all.
Fuck them all. We can't call our podcast that because Apple won't run it. But
really? Okay. No. Well, let's go over to Grindr or Getter or whatever. They'll run anything over there. Yeah.
I think last year that was the one the hardest I made you laugh all year.
Yes.
Find us on Gab.
Find us on Gab. Yeah, we're there.
Marjorie Taylor Greene got kicked off of Twitter this week. Did you put that in our notes?
When one Twitter bandit is returned, another door is opened or something like that. So there's only room for one of us. It's like Duncan McDonagh and the Clan of Donuts from the Highlander. In the end, there can only be one, and it's me. So Marjorie Taylor Greene had to go. I loved your headline today. I loved your
Drift Class. I had to write a headline for John Amato's. It was John Amato's post. It wasn't my post.
Yeah, well, nobody reads past the headline, honey, so don't worry about it.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
No, it was Marge Attacks.
Yeah, Marge Attacks. It's just perfect. This is the problem of living in a house full of artists.
Yes.
We're running around with our smocks all day going, you know what I did with that banana over there? It's just amazing. Come on. And nothing gets done.
No.
The children are running around in potato sacks. None of them are getting into college or any schooling whatsoever.
They're all getting into college and going on to do great things. Yes. Yeah.
But they're all walking out of here or living here, as it currently is the case, with a very distinctly artistic streak. Running a very creative streak. It manifests itself different ways, but
yes,
it's very satisfying. And one of these days, we're going to do a whole science fiction university podcast, I promise, on Station 11, because it's about artists.
Yes, it is.
And that's all I'll say. It's so much about artists and Chicago.
But we can only watch one episode a night because it's too intense. I mean that in a good way. It's not intense in like a violent way. It's intense in just so much happens and there's so much going on.
And the people are so well drawn. Just as a writer, I just want to take it apart, sentence by sentence and look at how they built a character. It's impressive.
Very efficient and very well done. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But let's talk about Win Red instead, shall we, Blue Gal?
Yeah, well, I've been processing how I feel about Win Red because Win Red is the platform by which the Republican Party, almost all of the Republican Party, with very few exceptions, raises money. And it is, unfortunately, even by some people on our side, confused as to being, it's just the counterpart to Act Blue.
No, it's not.
And it totally is not. It is a for-profit organization. I've been doing a lot of research on them. They take more money out of a donation to the Republican Party or a Republican candidate than PayPal, which is a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
And if you ask for a refund, the campaign that you donated to has to refund the full amount to you, including the fee. WinRed doesn't give no refunds.
No, that's the.
So, and this is the organization that Trump and Jared really pushed for this. Oh, this would be great because online donations are the future. That's how you get campaign money. And he's right. I mean, Jared saw that Act Blue was being tremendously successful in raising money for Democratic candidates. And he wanted to do that. And, but let's make it for profit so we can get a cut. That's the Trump way. And the thing that is under the table is how much is Trump getting for pushing everyone onto WinRed?
Right.
And how much is Trump getting for the use of his name in WinRed emails and texts and all of the fundraising that goes on?
That's his whole, I mean, the only reason he has money is because
slapping his name on things is how he makes money. And so, as I've said before, I think he is slow bankrupting the Republican Party by taking money from credulous Republican donors. There was a scandal that did make the headlines in the New York Times and so forth about, these hidden buttons where you say you want to give $100 to Trump and it turns out you're giving $100 a month to Trump.
Right.
And then you call or complain about that. Oh, yeah, we'll stop that and refund your money. Well, WinRed isn't refunding the money. That's coming out of the Trump campaign, which has already spent it on Trump's lawyers.
Right.
The GOP, official Republican Party is paying Trump's legal bills from 2014, 2015, from before he was president. So, I mean, Trump is just bankrupting the party. And
go faster.
You mentioned to me, well, that's what you said. You're like, I don't know why you're spending so much time on this. We should let them
bleed it faster and
let them flush it all. And I understand what you're saying. I don't like to see senior citizens get taken advantage of by anybody. And it is senior citizens getting taken advantage of in this case. Mm-hmm. And I know, yes, they're Republicans and a lot of them are racist and they're giving to Trump and they deserve what they get. Yes. So I've been journaling this week and really trying to figure out, why am I so upset about this? And it's because, as I've thought about it, the crux of this is money in politics.
Right.
And how, as we talked about Fox News and the new text that came out with Hannity, and Hannity being the de facto chief of staff of the Trump White House.
Yes,
for
absolutely.
Sure. He knew things that only an insider in the Oval Office would know, and he didn't report them. He's not a reporter.
Nope.
He's an advisor to the president. And I said to you, in that case, he should have zero First Amendment protections. And because he's not paid by the taxpayer and because he's not paid by the White House, he doesn't have any executive privilege either. He's really put himself out on this bridge to nowhere.
Uh-huh.
And then you said to me, yeah, but Fran, there's so much money. There's so much money.
There's so much money.
There's so much money in Hannity as a product.
Right.
And it's not going to go away. And I just thought Fox, first, they should lose their news trademark. The minute they walk into the courtroom and say, well, we're not a news organization and no one should believe a word we say, and that's why we can't be sued, and then that gets upheld in court, then okay, you're not a news organization. We're going to take whatever you said in court at face value. But you said, but Fran, there's so much money in Fox News. There's so much money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. And whether it's Congress people owning individual stock and then going on committees where they can influence the price of that stock, whether it's Fox News making money off of credulous senior citizens, and Trump doing the same, and it's all a grift, then we've got to clean that up.
Well,
I do feel a little like Ida Tarbell. I do feel a little bit like the problem is really big, and it's going to take big systemic generational change in our politics and our voter base to make those changes happen.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and you know where I come down on this, which is. I wrote a little post this week called "Here are some things that don't work," and just to be helpful. I'm a Mr. Helpful. I try to be helpful. And I wrote, "We're long past the point where shouting hypocrite or Republican hypocrites is in any way meaningful or productive."
Yeah,
it's descriptive in the same way that standing in your yard and shouting "Cirrus" at a cloud is descriptive, but it accomplishes nothing. Mm-hmm. We're long past the point where some democracy-threatening event is going to expose anything to anyone. Mm-hmm. There's nobody left to talk to. Everyone is where they are, and no one's going to budge. And we're long past the point where continuing to insist that they or someone ought to or must do something, which objectively is not going to happen, is anything other than frustrated self-indulgence. It's shouting at clouds. And saying that this should stop is manifestly true, and it won't. So then what? Mm-hmm. That's the thing. That once you get past the part where, of course, money should be out of politics. Of course, Fox News should have its news thing taken away. Of course, all these things should happen. But since none of that is going to happen in any time in the near future, then what? And that's where we get into some very scary territory, because there isn't a lot left to do. There's nobody left to persuade. There's no one left to budge. There's no one left whose brain is going to be altered.
Now, I'm going to disagree with you pleasantly.
And I want to add one more thing, and then please have at it, is big systemic change for the benefit of the people who are being ripped off by the GOP depends on those people not fighting tooth and nail to continue to be ripped off by the GOP.
Right.
And before they were ripped off by the GOP, they were being ripped off by Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson and Jim and Tammy Faye Baker. They are wired this way. This is how they are. And you can't stop stupid older people who want to believe something very dumb from giving them money to them. You can't. You can if you want to institute my ideal socialist state where you simply take away their ability to give their money away. But that's not going to happen. So as long as there are credulous older people or anybody and Social Security checks and Fox News, that money train is just going to keep rolling right on through to Fox News. Now, have at it.
Well, we can talk about the other end of the age spectrum and where you can convince people.
But remember, my proviso was in the immediate future. In the near term, none of this is going to change. Now, once people who are our kids' age become heavy hitters,
and they are. Two out of three are already voting, and the youngest will vote this year.
Yes.
So, they are reaching that age, and that generation is very pro-labor.
Yes.
Virulently anti-cop. They see, and I mean that in the sense of Black Lives Matter and the sense of seeing corruption where it is.
Yes.
And really having no problem using their power as consumers to swing the big cod around, right? Slap people with that fish. So I'm positive about the future in that regard. And I'm very sorry that so many of the people dying right now of COVID are in red areas.
I am too.
Death is not something. This is something that does bother me about our side, particularly on social media, is when I do see bloodlust on the left, and it doesn't happen often, but I did see it this week, and that's not who we are. So I know that I sound like Joe Biden when I say that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not going to make out with Joe Biden. I'm going to make out with you. But I think it's, like I said, I've said this 1,000 times. My wife is a better person than I am. And at some point, my answer to people who have a gun to their own head going, if you don't let me run the country to the ground, I'm going to shoot myself. My answer is, fuck, shoot, pull the trigger. Relieve us of your misery. I'm tired of being your unpaid therapist and you getting nowhere. I'm tired of extending an open hand to people who hate me on the very thin theory that if you just do it enough, they will eventually stop being giant prolapsed anuses, and they never ever do. History shows us that all they do is get hungrier and demand more. All they do is learn. Oh, you mean if I just hold my breath until I turn blue, you'll get rid of the Affordable Care Act? Great. You mean if I just make some rules up to deny you a Supreme Court seat and then reverse them, I can get away with that shit? Well, let's do this all the time. All we have done as really well-meaning, well-intentioned liberals, and I'm speaking to you, Barack Obama, is teach them that they can roll you every time, that they can use your good heart and your good intentions against you, because they are not good people. They're bad people, and they want to do bad things. And if they're hell-bent on running off the fucking cliff, let them. Just don't drag me with you. That's what they want to do, though. They want to drag the rest of us off the same cliff. And that is where we start having long, hard discussions about how to stop them, because they're not going to stop themselves. Clearly not going to stop themselves. We had live on television. The revolution was televised.
Right.
We saw them climbing through windows on the Capitol. We saw them shitting on people's desks. We saw them, and the entire Republican Party has just zipped up the whole thing and put it down the memory hole and said they were patriots. And they were
Antifa, false flag, FBI agents.
Or Joe Biden stole the election. They were justified. And you can't have peace with people like that. You can't coexist with people like that. You have to eliminate them somehow. And I mean electorally and socially. I don't mean physically, but they have to be taken off the board.
They have to be voted so dramatically that they give up. Yep.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I'm going to add to our notes just a little bit, because in my notes I have the perils of invented history. And I want to add to that the glory of invented future.
Yeah.
Because the human imagination is a wonderful thing. It's also a terrifying thing, because the human imagination lets us imagine a better future for our kids, and lets our kids imagine that someday they will live in a world where people don't hate you for being different, and corruption will be punished, and police will be fair, and they will be cheerful neighbors to you, and you will all get along. And I think the more precisely you imagine that future, the better chance you are of getting there. And I think that's what our kids are in the middle of doing. So human imagination, when it comes to inventing the future, is a glorious thing. But what we are seeing are people who are inventing the past, who are looking for answers in a glorious past that never happened. And the more they do that, the more they doom any chances of reforming the present. Because they keep insisting. There was two phrases I learned this week: chosen trauma and chosen glory. And it's the defining trauma of your group that defines your group as a group, and the defining glory of your past that was robbed from you.
And this was on a podcast, right?
It was on a podcast. It was on the Know Your Enemies podcast, talking about Sigmund Freud and politics. And it was also written about in Catholic literature. And this is what we're fighting against. This sense on the right that there was a glorious past that happened approximately between 1952 and 1967. And everything was fucking great. And then liberals fucked it all up. And only by destroying the people who destroyed our glorious country, only by crushing the left forever, driving them forever from our midst, can we bring back the golden age. So simultaneously, we are victims of this vast conspiracy on the left, this huge, complicated Soros, Obama, Biden, AOC, the entire media. Everyone is in on this giant conspiracy. But also, they're all weak and feckless and stupid and don't know what they're doing. And it's a normal brain it's impossible to process how you can believe those things at the same time. But as I learned this week,
then stir into it, JFK is coming back.
Yeah. But right. Every hypocrisy tells you what that person is trying to reconcile in their own brain. They're trying to reconcile the shame of being horribly wrong and the belief that they're the victim, that they are a chosen people. The Republicans are chosen to run this country. God has chosen them to run this country. And they've been robbed of God's mission by some conspiracy out there, probably by liberals like you and me, Blue Gal. And they hate us for it. Therefore, because you and I have violated a mandate from heaven, any tool is legitimate to get rid of us. Anything is legitimate. Lying, coups, and then lying about lying, bullshitting about the past, inventing shit, listening to Sean Hannity. Anything is better than letting liberals destroy us and then rub our nose in it, shove it down our throats. How many times did you hear that expression during the Obama years? Right. So a small example of this, I'm not just referring to the whack jobs. On the Bulwark podcast this week, Bill Kristol and Charlie Sykes spent a lot of time bitching about why Joe Biden can't be more like FDR.
AOC says that's a great idea.
Well, but specifically, FDR never tried to jam everything through all at once.
Yes, he did.
He tried some things. He tried a few more things. And he changed stuff and he tinkered with stuff. Okay, FDR had super majorities in both houses.
Yeah, and Republicans challenged him at the Supreme Court, and he got slammed on a couple of things that he wasn't allowed to do. So he went back and retooled them. Yes, he did. But
the whole idea, I think, I'm not making myself clear. The whole idea is Joe Biden should just pass little things one at a time.
Oh, I see.
Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. FDR could do that because he had supermajorities in both houses.
Right, in the Senate.
Joe Biden cannot do that because there's only one reconciliation bill allowed.
Right.
That's it. So you can do one big thing and then every single fucking thing else is going to be filibustered.
Right.
So, well, okay. And there's this sort of recognition on the right, sort of this schizophrenic recognition. All right, that's okay, fine. Yeah, but here's what he could do. Why not bring up each part of the voting rights portion and force Republicans to vote against them and expose them as the villains that they are. And I loop back again, exposed to who? Who is mystified by the fact the Republican Party hates democracy?
hates black people.
And hates black people.
I keep going back to this.
Yes.
This is something that just we don't say enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the thing that gels in people's minds, especially young people's minds.
Yep.
They don't want black people to vote, or they don't want if the black people vote, they want to throw away their votes.
And you know why? They're terrified. They're terrified. They're terrified that black people will treat them the way they treated black people.
Right.
They're terrified because that's what they would do.
Mm-hmm.
They have to keep their foot on the...
They did it for 400 years.
Yeah. They have to keep their boot on the throat of minorities and women and liberals because if they ever get control of this country, they'll turn around and avenge themselves.
Well, they're already doing it because you see mixed race marriages on insurance commercials.
We're doomed.
So
obviously,
we're doomed. Yeah. That's taking over the whole country. Right.
But that goes back to, that's as old as slaveholder mythology, which is slaves are foolish, childlike, feckless, and need to be guided. They're also sinister, plotting, scheming to murder us all, which is why they need to be beaten. Mm-hmm. And the fact that those two things cannot rationally exist in the same universe, but that they believed them both, told you both what they feared and what they invented to rationalize their own cruel and inhuman behavior. Republicans invent all kinds of excuses for being the worst assholes you've ever seen. And everything that comes out of their mouths just is them telling you who they are, which, again, is why it is silly to continue to pretend that there's going to be some moment, some magic string of words, some event, something where it's going to wake up the people. And suddenly Joe Biden's going to be 70% and he's going to win 40 states. And all of this mess will be behind us. Mm-hmm. And because that's just not going to happen. That might happen in the future. But just to jump ahead a little bit, the worst cult of the bunch are the worshipers of the imaginary center. Because whatever handful of actual centrists exists out there have been thoroughly brainwashed as any MAGA cultist. Mm-hmm. One group is programmed to automatically ignore anything they don't want to hear from the liberal media. But the other group, the centrists, the fake centrists, the imaginary centrists, that mostly they're made up of pundits as far as I can tell, and never Trumpers, are programmed to automatically append the words, but the Democrats, to any news about the Republican Party. So whatever you say about the GOP, Chuck Todd's going to come along behind it. Yeah, but Democrats are just as bad. Mm-hmm. And that gives the centrists all the excuse they need to just throw up their hands and say, well, it's both sides. I don't need to get involved. So it doesn't matter what you expose. If you expose the Republican Party who's plotting to create a volcanic explosion in Virginia, as God is my witness, you'd find somebody on the right to say, yeah, but liberals are planning to sacrifice virgins in our volcano. Mm-hmm. And Chuck Todd's going to go like, well, who knows? This seems like a race to the bottom to me. And every fucking centrist in the country would go, well, I guess the whole system's corrupt. Why bother getting involved? Nothing you're going to do is going to slap those morons in the center awake at all.
But Driftglass, why won't Joe Biden heal the divide?
Why won't Obama lead? Mm-hmm. Why won't Obama lead? And the reason I say this with such kind of resigned intensity is that you and I have been through this already.
Yes,
we've been through the 8 years of the Obama administration, watching the same assholes tell the same lies about the same non-existent center. And every time there was another Republican atrocity all over the punditocracy, it was, why won't Obama lead? Mm-hmm. Why won't he join hands? Why won't he have a drink with Mitch McConnell? Why won't he use his magic Green Lantern powers to solve our problems?
I think we're missing something, though, Driftglass, in our conversation about this, which is the imaginary center is where a lot of low information, often non-voters, people whose idea of a week is not thinking about politics at all, and watching Masked Singer and the Bachelorette, and they think of themselves as, I'm in the center, I'm an independent.
Sure.
When they're pushed up against the wall to talk about politics, so they can avoid controversy and not appear stupid. They want to save face, right? And so people who speak along those lines, whether it's Chuck Todd or your local Republican congressman that's been in office for 30 years and says we're a center-right country. We don't want too much change,
No, we don't want that.
And that is appealing to a person that thinks about elections for 3 days in November.
Right. And
so that's the audience for a lot of this, who are scanning through the through the channels without living 24/7 on Twitter and MSNBC.
Well, your timing is very good, because I'm gonna now read you something I tweeted just before we started podcasting.
Okay.
Which is, you got to understand, most people are just too busy with work and soccer practice and stuff to notice that fascists are trying to seize power and destroy their democracy.
Yeah, right.
Like, okay, well, maybe those stupid people should get the fuck out of the way. Because if you are still asleep after Clinton, after Bush, after Iraq, after Obama, after Trump, you're still fucking asleep, then you're just brain dead. You're just lazy. You're just fucking incompetent as a citizen.
Or terrified. Or aware that you're stupid and you don't want to appear stupid to your friends. And I told you that was one of the most striking political moments in my life, was sitting in a restaurant and this young after work crowd sitting around a table, and there's 6 or 7 of them sitting there. And one of the white guys says, "I'm going to vote for John McCain." This was 2008. And everybody at the table, including the waitress, said, "What? Really? No way." And he had to, pull it back up into his body cavity because peer pressure. And it wasn't because they had a list of issues and a list of policy proposals and a strong commitment to the Democratic Party. It was because John McCain appeared to be stupid. He had nominated an absurd vice presidential candidate who was a walking joke. And it was not cool. What was cool was "Yes, we can." That was what was cool about 2008. And if you wanted to be cool, you were not going to vote for John McCain. Right.
And there were a number of people, as I recall, maybe Colin Powell was one of them. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I might be making it up. I might be interpolating a bunch of things, but several African-American Republicans who said, "I don't want to have to explain to my kids and grandkids why I didn't vote for the first black candidate for president."
Right.
And that was it. For them, it was not a matter of Affordable Care Act and the economy. It was a matter of, I can't do this. I can't vote against that.
I think the same thing happened in 2016 that we don't know. I think it's being hidden from us the extent to which Russia manipulated things. But we do know that there were a whole lot of people sharing on social media the next morning, "I just voted for Trump as a joke."
Right. And yet, in 2020, more people voted for him than in 2016.
Yeah. But more people voted for Biden big time and came out who stayed home because
they did.
I don't really like Hillary that much. And
I know.
She's going to win anyway, so I don't need to really go. And that a lot of people have blamed 528 or 538 and
Matthew Dowd
and people who thought corrupt monopoly. And, it's a 92% chance that Hillary's going to win. And so
I can just stay home. Oh, okay.
Okay. I don't have to weigh in on this
either. And
I can blame Hillary for everything because I didn't vote for her.
I can stay home. I can keep myself pure. I can vote. I can write, Eugene Debs on the wall and call it a vote. Right. I don't have to actually participate in democracy. But that was the official position of the chief political analyst for ABC News. Yeah. You should not vote for either of these two because they're both equally bad.
Well, and people did vote Green Party too.
Yes,
that is absolutely the case. So,
but now, and let's return to the center one more time.
Right.
Which is, you sit this person down and show them, Dracula. Say, who's the bad guy? Oh, it's that guy. You sit them down and show them Donald Trump versus democracy. Who's the bad guy? I don't want to take sides.
Right.
I don't want to take. Well, isn't it fucking obvious who the bad guy is? The fascist, the racist.
But taking sides, there's a social cost to that. Sure. There's a social cost, and that's the problem. Yeah.
But saying I don't have time to notice, I was busy with soccer practice, is bullshit. I'm sorry, but your democracy, your country's hanging by a thread, and if you've been that occupied,
you're that selfish, and you're that privileged,
not for 2 years or 3, but for 20 years, if you've been that. If you've checked out, then you've made a decision that you do not want to engage in the hard, fussy work of being a citizen.
And you should stay home.
And you should stay home. And we should stop chasing you.
Right.
Stop trying to appeal to people who, by definition, say, I don't want to pick. I don't want to choose a side.
Here's the problem is that the right-wing Christianist nonsense voter won't stay home.
No, of course not.
So that's why we have to chase those people and make it so that for them to recognize not that the Republican Party is an existential threat to democracy so much as you vote for them, you're fucking racist and you are not cool and you are not going to get any pussy.
Well, that's a bumper sticker I can slap on the ass of my van and drive proudly down the street.
Seriously. You think a woman's, the reason you're an incel is because fucking Republicans. That's why.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
You and Katie Porter need to go on the road with a whiteboard and take Rachel Bittencofer with you.
Yeah.
And call me every night because I know how ladies are when they're out on their own on the road.
Yeah, right.
And because that's the sort of that. Who says Democrats can't message? No pussy for you.
No pussy for you.
Oh wow, okay, I get it. Well, okay.
The juicy party, Democrats. Yeah. There you go.
Now you want to talk about the Republican primaries? I believe
they're going to be lit, Driftglass. Yeah. I know I've said that before. They're going to be lit, but guess what, Driftglass?
Oh,
Rodney Davis is being primaried.
We don't even have to leave our home. to see the fireworks from.
Oh my gosh. I feel so horrible that Rodney Davis is the lesser of two evils in Illinois 15. And by the way, Stephen, our friend Stephen, who lives we found out, we checked it out. He's been asking me to check with Junior Dude to look at the map carefully and see where the Bloomington Normal area falls on the map. It's Illinois 15. You're going to be represented by Rodney Davis. We feel for you. Or you're going to be represented by Mary Miller. Mm-hmm. And Mary Miller is a Trump endorsed. This is the thing. She's already been endorsed by Trump for Illinois 15.
I did not see that coming.
I know. Yeah. And even though Kevin McCarthy, Rodney Davis is one of Kevin McCarthy's right-hand men. He's a whip. He wants to be in leadership. He was going to be appointed to the January 6th Commission.
He was appointed to it.
He was appointed to it until Nancy Pelosi said you can't put Jim Jordan on there.
And he did what Rodney Davis does. He turned tail and ran because he's a fucking coward. He obeyed
what Kevin McCarthy, McCarthy, told him to do.
What should I do, Kevin? You should quit. Okay, I'll quit. You're still just these two assholes over here. It's still cool. No, I don't want to be on your committee because I'm friend guy. I don't know. Yeah, that's him. That's him through and through.
Right. But now, Mary Miller, who does not live in Illinois 15, although Rodney Davis does, Mary Miller was at the January 6th rally. And she was the one, in case you have forgotten, she was the one who said, and we talked about this last week, we should go after the youth vote. And she added to that, Hitler was right about one thing.
Yeah.
About the youth are the future. You can't just say youth are the future. Let's go after the youth vote. You have to attribute that to Hitler, apparently.
Right. Hitler knew a lot of stuff. I don't know if you've read his books.
But that's not what she said. She said one thing.
Yeah.
And she's the Trump endorsed candidate for Illinois 15, which is our plus 40 something. It's a Republican district. It's a gerrymandered district to keep the Republicans together and let them fight.
Right.
And so, Kevin McCarthy asked Trump not to endorse her because he wants Rodney to win because Rodney's his guy.
Right.
But Trump endorsed Mary Miller because Mary was at his rally and believes in Stop the Steal and all this other, nonsense.
As I wrote earlier this week. Yeah. On the one hand, Rodney Davis has that Midwest conservative undescended testicle voice that so many hard-eyed local Republican real estate ladies and dyspeptic pharmacists find reassuring.
Absolutely.
On the other hand, Mary Miller, who's like, okay.
We don't know who's going to win this primary.
No,
whoever wins the primary wins the general election.
But it's going to be lit.
It's going to be lit, and it's going to be I think if they do debates, it's going to be fugly. It is going to be fugly.
I had a cheap apartment in Chicago before I moved to the condo. Mm-hmm. It was on the top of a shitty building, 27th floor, as I recall, that had very few virtues. One of the virtues was that it was high enough and it was clear of obstruction enough. It just happened to be clear of obstruction on the north side. I could see all the fireworks displays all the way out to practically O'Hare Airport.
Oh, wow.
So on 4th of July, we pull up a chair, open the blinds. There, the spiders would fall from the ceiling because there were lots of spiders in this building. And you can watch just neighborhood firework displays everywhere. This is sort of like that.
Yeah.
We don't need to leave our home at all.
We're not in this district anymore.
No,
we're in Illinois 13, which has had all these Republican areas carved out.
Right. But it's adjacent.
And the question is, there's several questions.
Well, we rub right up close to 15.
We do. And we know people who live in 15.
Yes, we do.
and I feel for Stephen, our listener.
I do too.
I feel for him. But a couple things. One is Mary Miller's a woman. We don't know whether misogyny is going to come into this race. I mean, they're Republicans, so it could. 2, Mary Miller doesn't live in this district, which is not disqualifying in Illinois. You can run in a congressional race and not live in the district. Ironically, her husband is a state rep, and he also doesn't live in his district. So Rodney is already pushed on that button. And finally, there's the issue of because Mary Miller is an incumbent congresswoman from the previous district, which included some of Illinois 15, but not a lot. And so, and of course, Rodney Davis was Illinois 13, and now he's moving to 15, where he lives, to run. The question is geographically, which do you consider your incumbent congressman? You may be more likely to vote for the person that you voted for last time. I haven't done the math on that. No one I know has done the math on that. Junior Dude, who, the Junior Dude declaration. The Junior Dude declaration is Rodney's screwed.
Yeah.
Rodney is so screwed.
Yeah. But he might run for governor. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Good luck with that.
Did you suddenly find $1 billion under the mattress? Because that'd be great.
And be able to allow Chicago to secede from the state, and then you might win. Yes. There's another congressional candidate. She's actually got other challengers, but Washington 3. Her name is Heidi St. John, and she's running for the soul of America, Driftglass.
Really? I've heard of that. Yeah, cool.
She's a Republican who says that public libraries are such evil organizations that she turned in her library card years ago.
Well, okay. Let's be fair. Leslie Knope from Parks and Rec would agree with her. That the most evil institution in America is the public library. It's run by monsters who want to steal her husband. So, okay.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. But that's a different kind of reasoning.
Yes, it is. It's reasoning from...
Heidi St. John also said this year, or within the past 3 months, almost word for word what Mary Miller said about Hitler. And I've got to wonder if that is a script to signal Nazis that it's okay to vote for me.
Is it a different Hitler? Are they referring to
it's not
Jim
a different Hitler? And it really was, as bad as he is, Hitler was right about one thing. Yep. The youth vote is so important. And if you have the young people, then you have the future. You
could have said,
and it's
Catholics.
Word for word.
Yeah.
And I just think that there's a script written by Candace Owens or somebody to signal to the American Nazi Party that I'm your gal.
Yeah.
But there is trouble in paradise, Driftglass, because Marjorie Taylor Greene is fighting with Ted Cruz now, and
fight.
Lynn Wood is fighting with everybody, and
fight. Let's them
and
fight.
Now a former Arizona Republican U.S. Senate candidate who's no longer a candidate, but looks like he wants to be somewhere.
All right, let's be fair. Who among us is not a former Republican U.S. Senate candidate?
Well, that's
Arizona?
True. It's great news for John McCain.
Yeah.
He challenged Trump to a $1 million debate, called Trump a little bitch, and used a flamethrower in an ad to torch his own MAGA hat.
Yeah. And you know why?
Because Trump abandoned MAGA.
Trump, he abandoned our values as MAGA assholes. He told me to get a vaccination, and do stuff that I don't want to do.
Well, and he also abandoned them on January 6th.
Yes, told us to march up there, and we marched up there, and he promised us.
And now we're going to jail, and he isn't.
Yeah, that's right, asshole. Yeah. Guess what? I guess you're a moron.
Shit sandwich. Yeah. Welcome to it.
Yeah. Oh, take a big bite. Yeah. And I'm sorry, but you fell for this racist carny hack.
Yeah.
Like you always do. So, I'm real sorry. And you know what? Torching your MAGA hat really sends a message.
Like, it sure does.
Yeah, and it's great. Now you don't have a MAGA hat. So what does that tell me about anything?
It's the Patriot Party now, Driftglass.
Yes. Yes, I've heard of the Patriot Party. I've heard of all of them. And now the Arizona GOP, which is the real Republican Party, and the Patriot Party, which is the true...
the Patriot Party on Twitter.
But which of these is the true conservative, Blue Gal?
That's
what I want to know.
I was Tea Party for years, Driftglass. I know true conservatism when I see it.
No true MAGA is what I say.
The coffee filter party.
Yeah.
Our motto, Trump who?
Trump who? Never heard of the man. Speaking of, and why don't we jump to the other end of the spectrum and go to a news roundup?
I think that's a great idea. It gives us an opportunity to talk about Biden's speech.
Biden's kick-ass speech.
Which was at 9-ish this morning.
Yeah.
Eastern time.
Yeah. I watched it.
And I got to say, smart, first of all. Politically smart as can possibly be.
Right.
The timing of it. Oh, no, he should have had in prime time. No, it's a slow news day, folks.
That's right. All day long.
I'm telling you, you think January 6th, you think, oh, no, they really have a lot to talk about. No, it's a slow news day. Congress isn't back yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so Biden got ahead of the news cycle by starting at 9 a.m. with this speech. And they're running it, and they're running it, and they're running it all day long. That's all anybody's talking about. He set the standard. And what's the standard? Donald Trump's a fucking liar.
He's a fucking liar. He lied to you. He's a fucking liar. And his Republican henchmen are all liars too.
Yeah.
They're all liars. They lie all the time.
Anti-American.
This is un-American. It's anti-American. We're not like this. And every presidential speech you've probably seen, most of them take place in the White House at the end of a long corridor with red carpet,
right,
where you see him walk up. No. This was in the People's House. This was the House of Representatives. I know Charlie Pierce.
The Hall of Patriots, right?
Well, the Statuary Hall, I think.
Statuary Hall, yeah.
But you all can correct me. It had a bunch of statues in it. I know that. But Charlie Pierce is going to get tickled to death because over the mantle, right behind him, Joe Biden referred to. And this sculpture above me is Cleo, the muse of history. And she has her book open and she records. And that was Charlie Pierce's motto for years. He would also say, Cleo, the muse of history. If you ever come to Springfield, I'll show you my license plate, which was a play on Cleo, the muse of history. It was so perfect, and it was a really good speech. And other than never mentioning Trump by name, only mentioning the former president, which is formal and proper. It was just a bunch of elbows thrown hard. I can't imagine anybody being dissatisfied, other than maybe the sequence of things. And by the way, Vice President Kamala Harris is right there. She was the opening act. Yep. So this was not a Joe Biden show.
And the White House published her remarks.
Yes.
And then waited an hour and a half. We were all waiting for the official transcript to come out over at Crooks and Liars of Biden's speech. And they let Kamala Harris's remarks stay up there by themselves for a good part of the morning, which I think was very symbolic and respectful. Good speech. It's the topic of the day.
Right.
It was a political speech, but it was a political speech because there was a political act committed against the United States of America a year ago.
Right. And I remember, distinctly, I think it was a year after 9/11, gathering at churches.
Yes.
And people were singing hymns. I went to a Baptist church somewhere on the near north side. That's where they held it. And there's none of that this year because the enemy is within.
Yeah.
The enemy is your neighbor. The enemy is the guy that your neighbor voted into office. The enemy might be your neighbor who went to Washington, D.C. And it's really hard for us to gather as a nation and mourn and remember something when half the nation thinks it was a good thing, or a third think it's a good thing. But Joe Biden did exactly what everyone was asking him, begging him, cajoling him to do. He picked his target, he picked his time, he picked his venue, and he stood up and gave a hell of a speech. I have no complaints about it, which is very rare for me.
Well, and it kind of erased Merrick Garland's speech from the day before.
Yes.
Which was boring. Yeah. And that's okay. I know people think it's not going fast enough, but it's going a lot faster than Watergate went. And the legal experts who've been talking about this are like, I don't understand why people are complaining it's going so slow. They've arrested and indicted 750 people.
Right.
You know how fast that is?
Yeah.
So the fact we haven't gotten to Trump yet is because you do the little guys first.
First, you get the burglars.
Yeah.
You get G. Gordon Liddy. Then you work your way up. And, I understand. I want them all behind bars yesterday. I completely understand. I understand that.
I don't think Trump's going to get a pardon from Biden. Do you?
No, but I do understand that 310 days from now, or actually once they do the swearing in, it's going to be more like a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
If Democrats no longer control the House, this committee goes away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if their business is not done and concluded and tied up with a bow by summer or fall,
mm-hmm.
which would be timing wise ideal, then nothing will come of this particular committee.
Mm-hmm.
And the Justice Department will have to carry a lot of water. But that's a different discussion for a different podcast, maybe our 13th anniversary. We'll look back and say, you know what should have, could have,
well,
but not today.
And I realize, again, there's a lot of frustration, but we need to get used to the fact that the Justice Department is not political.
Right.
and that's something we want everyone to be on our side and fighting for us, and that fighting for American democracy
mm-hmm.
is what they're doing by going methodically and making sure that these cases won't be lost on appeal, having an ironclad case where the attorneys for everyone that they're charging say, look, they've got you. And your defense attorney says they've got you. You've got to do a plea deal. That's what they
mm-hmm.
want out of this.
All right, moving on to other news, shall we?
Yes, let's do it.
The U.S. reported more than 1 million new COVID infections, a single-day record for new cases, larger than any country in the world.
Get your booster shots. We did.
Boosters, mask, boosters, mask, boosters, mask. And, I don't know what to tell you beyond that. Everyone who listens to us is already doing these things, so it's kind of silly to remind you. But in case you're sitting in a coffee house and someone's overhearing this and suddenly I didn't realize I should get a booster. By hearing my voice, great. That's great.
We want to get a fourth booster when they're available.
We do.
Get a booster.
Hit me with your next shot. Fire away. That's what I say.
Thank you, Pat Benatar. All right. The U.S. doubled its order of Pfizer's coronavirus antiviral pills, bringing the government's total order of the drug to 20 million treatment courses.
Isn't that in line with Sean Hannity's demand that all medical treatment be free and immediate?
He wanted on-demand everything. And we thought, are you going for socialized medicine here, Sean?
You've gone way past socialized medicine, brother. You're
on demand. I want all my antivirals and what is it? Monoclonal antibody on demand.
Free and on demand right now. Like, wow, okay.
Wow, Sean.
Mr. Senator Sanders would like a word with you.
Yeah, really.
The CDC's Independent Vaccine Advisory Committee recommended booster doses of Pfizer COVID vaccine for 12 to 17-year-olds, which is excellent news.
Coronavirus cases have been reported in all 92 cruise ships.
Yeah, I put this on here
to go on a cruise. Okay?
I put this on here just for you, darling.
Thank you,
just for you.
I like cruises and Driftglass doesn't.
But, I do not. Yes, that's true.
That's okay. I'm not going on any cruises anytime soon.
Can this marriage be saved? Yeah, I think we're okay.
Totally. Every case, the CDC has either started an investigation or has investigated and continues to observe the ship. Last week, the CDC warned all travelers, including those who are vaccinated, to avoid cruise ships.
Don't lick Petri dishes either, because that's a bad idea, too. As we mentioned, Attorney General Merrick Garland has pledged to hold those responsible for January 6th riot at, quote, any level accountable, saying federal authorities would follow the facts wherever they lead. That's great.
Via Digby, in her post this week, one good thing. Effective January 1st, federal law bans many types of out-of-network surprise medical bills and puts the onus on doctors and health insurance companies to resolve their payment disputes. Consumers can breathe a sigh of relief because in many scenarios, they could no longer face unexpected charges from doctors who are not in their insurance networks. Patients still have to pay in-network copays, deductibles, and other cost sharing, which have been rising. But any additional out-of-network bills are now prohibited for a number of services that does not include ambulances. And that's the thing. We have what do they call them? MDs. The
EMTs?
Is it Uber or Lyft? I think it's Uber. Uber MD.
Oh.
That, you get an Uber to the hospital instead of getting an ambulance because you can't afford an ambulance. Mm-hmm. And that's horrible.
Donald Trump canceled his planned January 6th news conference to mark the first anniversary of the attack on the Capitol by a mob of his supporters, blaming the media and the bipartisan congressional committee investigating the attack.
Fuck that guy.
Womp womp. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
You know what? There was a speech today, and he was mentioned in it, so he should be happy.
The House panel investigating the January 6th Capitol riot says it's in possession of dozens of text messages that Fox News host Sean Hannity sent to Mark Meadows and other Trump associates around the time of the attack. In a letter to Hannity, the committee wrote that they were in possession of material that suggested Hannity had advanced knowledge. He sure did. Regarding President Trump's and his legal team's planning for January 6th. He also knew that the whole White House counsel's office was ready to resign.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a scoop that he should have reported as a reporter.
As a news reporter person, he should have talked to us about the news. I turn to him every night for...
No, you don't.
No. I skip past him every night to go, just with TV muted, looking at the Chiron going, oh, shit, really? Yeah. Liberals want to eat babies again? That's just terrible.
Right.
At least 57 people involved in the events of January 6th insurrections are running for elected office, including some who were arrested on charges related to the Capitol attack. Isn't that exciting?
Liz Cheney's daddy came to Capitol Hill today to tell everyone he's deeply disappointed in GOP leadership. Charlie Pierce had something to say about that.
Back when you could just shoot a man in the face and make him apologize.
Or tell him to go fuck himself on the floor of the House of Representatives like he did to Pat Leahy.
Back in the good old days, I was told Leahy to go fuck himself. Yeah, those were great days. Back when I had you, that was like 5 hearts ago.
5 hearts ago, yeah.
Orange County Deputy District Attorney Kelly Emby, a leader within the local Republican Party, has died suddenly a week after telling friends she was very sick with COVID-19. She was vocally opposed to COVID restrictions and vaccine mandates.
Last fraud at rat standing from the Daily Beast. Election fraudsters vow to stab each other with the truth. This is Linwood and Michael Flynn and those guys, and they're all fighting each other like rats. They really are.
And they're vowing to out each other and leaving messages
I'm gonna
about...
dox you. Yeah.
Did you order a dick sandwich? I have your dick sandwich. It's a bunch of 8th graders who are drunk and monstrous fighting with each other.
Well, they're running out of the grift. And this was the thing. The Daily Beast article mentioned that if you've got the QAnon mailing list, you've got a license to make money because these are the most easily grifted people. They believe JFK's coming back. So
JFK Jr.,
they'll send you money.
JFK Jr. Let's be clear about that.
JFK Jr. is going to be back with JFK. They were waiting for JFK at Dealey Plaza. Yes.
Wow. And he'll sit on the right hand of the father and
I don't know.
Whatever.
It's whatever it is. But
will
they
Maryland
do believe
come back
that.
too? Is Maryland coming? Because that'd be very cool.
These people are deeply traumatized.
Yes, they are. And they shouldn't be anywhere near anything.
They should have mental health. They should have mental health interventions. That's for sure. But if you can get to them and ask them for money because you're on their side, you can make money. And that money is now running out because Donald Trump wasn't reinstated before December 31st.
Are you sure he wasn't? You're sure
he might have always been president.
Maybe he's secretly president. We just don't know.
Secretly president. Yes, that's it.
For 1995, I'll tell you how Donald Trump is secretly running the government.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah, well, and you know what?
And this is why I'm so upset about WinRed. It's all part of it. It's a way of corrupting our political system.
Well, and with these people, it's just dynamiting fish in a barrel. I mean, it's pathetic. Joe Manchin told reporters that he had no negotiations with Democrats about reviving Biden's $1.75 trillion social and climate change spending bill.
Ted Cruz warned that Republicans would likely impeach Biden, whether it's justified or not, if they retake the House in the midterm elections. In an interview, it was actually on his podcast. I listened to 45 minutes of Ted Cruz podcast for work this week. You talk about strapping on a hazmat suit.
Mock me all you want for listening to Joe Walsh, honey, but here we go.
Cruz claimed there are potentially multiple grounds to consider for impeaching Biden, including the utter lawlessness of his refusal to enforce the border. They'll just make something up. It'll be a Hunter Biden laptop, Benghazi, Solyndra,
Kenya.
Baby parts.
Sure.
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, meanwhile, said maybe Senator Cruz can work with us on getting something done on comprehensive immigration reform instead of name-calling. I don't think so, Jen. Boom. I think you're going to be disappointed.
Still, I like to see the stiletto go in. It's satisfying on so many levels. More than 40% of Americans lived in a county this year that experienced a climate-related disaster.
And Twitter permanently suspended the personal account of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and now she's telling everybody to leave Twitter, but then she tweeted today from her congressional account.
Leave Twitter and join me on the island. Yeah, okay. This is, she wants, her new account's going to be... Yeah, her new account's going to be called heavensgate.join or something,
Well, she's go on Getter. Come on, don't go. And then she went on Getter to complain about Twitter. Mm-hmm. And people were mad at her for mourning her Twitter account over on Getter.
They're looking like we're right here. We're sitting right here. And you're bitching that you're about your ex.
You're not at the cool people's table.
You want to complain about your ex to your new girlfriend? Really?
Yeah,
That's
really.
Okay. That sounds like a great idea. The only local news we already covered, which is a guy named Rodney Davis, who's about to be put through the ringer, which couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I'll save my Glenn Greenwald wisdom for another day.
I have him muted on Twitter, so if you put Glenn Greenwald in your tweet, I won't see it.
Yeah, there's that. These days, he has to be brought to the surface by someone else and brought to my attention because I don't care. He landed right where I thought he would. He behaved exactly the way I predicted he would, and I don't need any more validation.
No.
A shitload of apologies
about COVID must end. I said so.
This. I spoke, and we should end this cursed COVID thing, for God's sakes. Why isn't someone doing something about that? Wow, Glenn. No mere liberal could have said that on Fox News. I was 100% pro-COVID until you went on with Tucker Carlson, and now you've turned me all around about this whole COVID thing. We should end this thing. Damn it.
Each week, we post to our Facebook page and website an Internet Kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitty is a dog named Willow and his newborn human named Andreas. As I say on the photo, it is not clear who is supervising whom, but they do make a great team. And of course, Willow eats freshly poured dog food, our fake sponsor. We also have word that Willow likes to chew on carrots.
Oh.
Like it's a bone. It's crunchy. It's good. Yeah. But he's clearly looking after this newborn baby. And newborn baby has one eye open, checking out and looking out for Willow. So we love them both, babies and dogs alike. And whether you serve Pet Store Perfection or Dollar Store Drac, your pets will sit on the kitchen floor and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured. Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh, my Lord, it's freshly poured. So you can visit Willow and Andreas at our Facebook page or website. And you can send your Internet Kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, where you can also write to both of us. Feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Go, postal unions. Letter on the air unless you say otherwise. Driftglass, we have a letter here. It is from Richard, and Richard wrote to us, "For years now, I've valued listening to your podcast each Saturday morning. Living in Western New York, I think you're especially good at capturing the voice and accent of life as a Democrat around the Great Lakes."
Yeah.
What a welcome alternative to the Northeast perspective. As you know, even the most local elections have become a culture struggle. It is useful hearing how this plays out from Illinois, even though it seems upside down at times. Your upstate is our downstate. Yes, I understand that.
Yep, that's right.
At least here, we sit on the doorstep of Canada, not the old Confederacy. Maybe other listeners would like hearing about how Democrats are coping and sometimes even thriving on school boards, town councils, or county legislatures around the USA. My area has been shifting from purple to blue. Much of this happened because Republicans repeatedly defeated themselves through stupidly corrupt behavior. There are spectacular examples from around here, but I am sure these are not unique. Democrats win by being clean and practical thinking. Maybe there are valuable accounts to harvest from your listeners nationwide.
Could be.
Local races are becoming more influential. Can we hear about how and where Republican dragons are being slain by courageous Democrats in these little races?
Great idea.
I'm guessing you have listeners who could share their experiences and inspire others. Anyhow, it seems like a valid ask. Keep up the excellent podcasting and all the best wishes for 2022, Richard. So I just thought that was a really interesting idea. So if you want to report on local races or local politicians in your area that are doing well, or if you've been to a school board meeting and good has won out, we love good news. But if you have bad news too and need to talk about that, let us know. I just thought that was a good idea.
Yeah. If you're writing us about Rodney Davis, we already know.
We know. By the way, hashtag get rid of your joy. We know that. Don't forget our gourmet coffee guideline. If you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage for yourself, buy one for us. This is not charity. This is our job. I have noticed, Driftglass, a trend in that more people are donating these days, new donors on Patreon.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And we don't give any additional bonuses to one set of donors over another. So
there's no secret podcast.
There's no secret thing. We just want, if you donate, thank you. And there's no wrong way to donate is our way to look at it.
No.
The only advantage to Patreon that I can see is if you donate to multiple podcasts through Patreon, you can keep track of where you're donating.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that is an advantage. But otherwise, we're glad to have you donate any way you wish. And thank you for that. You can see our website, proleftpod.com, for details on how to donate. We have PayPal, postal address information, Patreon, merch, all of it is there at proleftpod.com. Please share our show on social media. And if you love this podcast, please get someone else to listen to. And thank you for doing that. Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, Blue Gal, the Internet Kitties thank all of our listeners, whether they've been with us for 12 years or 1.2 episodes. We love you.
We love you.
Let's think about living. Think about living. Let's think about loving. Think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with the switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left Podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2022. BGBG Productions Incorporated.